Alright my friends, how you all doing? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a very special episode of our city zoo build, Tropical Wings Zoo. We are back in Tropical Wings, my friends, and I have a very, very special episode for you today. I have been given early access to the brand new Twilight Pack DLC that is coming out for Planet Zoo. I want to say a massive thank you to the guys over at Frontier for sending me not only early access to the Twilight Pack DLC, but a lovely gift as well. Really, really appreciate the support from the guys at Frontier with each and every one of the new releases. Now, as a result of that new release, I got a little bit of early access, which has allowed me to build something for you up for today that's a really, really special habitat. I have got some other stuff planned for this week involving the DLC as well, so do keep an eye on the channel if you want to get up to date on everything that is available in the Twilight Pack DLC. Take a look at the animals, the pieces, all that stuff. All will be provided on this channel, but we've made a mass addition to Tropical Wings, so let's jump in and see what it is. So we're gonna start where we always start, gang, at the entrance. Now, I have basically finished one habitat, and I've got another one that's half done. So obviously we're going to look at the one that's finished. I always wanted to do this animal as my first animal. The minute that, Frontier contacted me and said, we'd love you to be part of the team that we involve in the early access, and after we found out we were getting the Egyptian fruit bat, it had to be that. I was just hoping we were going to have, the ability to really go to town on the habs, and you can. You really, really can, gang. And I'm going to kind of explain how it all works in today's episode, as well as show you the build. I have got another build, obviously, coming out this week. I've scheduled it for tomorrow. If you're on the Discord, you will know that, I do a weekly schedule. It's scheduled for tomorrow, but it really depends on whether I get it finished today. If I don't, it will go out on Wednesday. So it will go out this week, gang, but I do have another one. Now, we've added the Egyptian fruit bat to the zoo, and it now resides in this big old building here, gang. And you might be looking at that and thinking, Jesus, that is way too big. Do we really need a facility of that size? Now, what you're going to learn when you get the DLC is the brand new exhibit box that the bats need to live in is very big. It's my only gripe, okay, because I do really like the bats. I like the DLC. I think there's some really, really good pieces. I think all the animal models are very good, but my only gripe is the scale of this exhibit box. But something I've learned about Planet Zoo is they always scale up rather than scale down. So, it's just one of those things you have to accept with the game. But if you're clever, you can make it work, and you can make it smaller. There's probably people that have got early access and they're looking at that and they're looking and they're going, how on earth have you managed to make it that small? They're probably already asking those questions because I have made it a lot smaller than it is. So what I'm going to actually do in today's episode, something I wouldn't normally do, is I'm going to show you the exhibit box basically, and then, I will show you, the habitat as well. So the exhibit box that they come in, you go to the facilities, they are kept under animal exhibits, and then there are this very large walkthrough exhibit, basically. Now, that's how big the exhibit is. It has many, many options on the exhibit box. You can actually remove the ceiling, all the sides, so it becomes a really, big, customizable piece. You can add all of the items, like enrichment items. So if I show you, basically, it doesn't matter if I just place one over here, basically. But yeah, if you then click on this, you can customize it all, basically. So as you can see, you can take all the walls off. If I was to do this, it will just take it all off. So there you go, that takes it all off. Until you put an animal in there, though, it won't open up all the other options, but essentially there are a bunch of options that you can kind of add. It has a path already kind of inside it. The doors are a bit large as well. Like, everything about it is pretty big, to be fair. So it's just one of those things. But it is a really cool piece at the same time, because look, you can remove all of the sides, all of the walls. What you do need to just be careful of, though, if you are going to do this, is mark where the ceiling is, because otherwise your bats will clip through. That's something I unfortunately learned the hard way when I was building this habitat, but it is a really, really cool piece. And when we get inside, I will click on it and click on the one we've used, and I'll show you how all of the kind of enrichment items and all that work. So, what I decided to do, and this is something I kind of planned, I actually mentioned this to you guys about where I was going to put the Egyptian fruit bats, and I said, maybe we make an extension on the side of where the fennec foxes are. How are we going to make it work? I don't know. Let's hope the facility isn't too large. Now, it ended up being a lot bigger than I wanted it to. I was going to place the facility in that direction, but actually it made more sense to do it in this direction. And then, you know, our kind of safari area is going to kind of pick up with this building as like a centerpiece now. Now, there will be a staircase at the bottom, almost like a semicircle staircase. The reason I haven't done it is because I just need to plan, you know, where this hab's going and where this hab's going. As you all know, I will not, you know, start things until I really know, you know, I've hammered out all of the logistics, basically. Otherwise, it's just a waste of your time. It's really, really good to, you know, kind of plan all your bits and bobs, basically. But yeah, so it is quite a big, it is quite a big addition, but kind of needed to be just because of the scale of the building. And I have added, you know, a few other bits and bobs as well. You know, so it's more of like an experience, basically, this. But if we were to take a look at the outside, what I have done is I've kind of carried on this big wide area because we've got these access roads. So this access road now comes up here and the other access road is going to join there now. So we've got to leave this like relatively open, this space. I have added some planters in because otherwise it just would have looked like just a horrible grey mess. But we have got some green space, which is really, really good. And we've added some seating and whatnot. And then, as you can see, we've got our staff access back here with the gate in case any larger vehicles need to come in. And I started to get things in place like this piece of road and whatnot. These are the plants I was using. They're not going to stay there, don't worry, gang. And then, as you can see, it kind of comes up this way. But it is all change back here. It really, really is all change. You know, this road was going to join up, basically. It was going to come here and join there, wasn't it? Well, it did join there. We actually had the road in place, but yeah, this building's changed shape a little bit as well. We actually made this bit slightly larger just to bring it back and join it all up. And this is like different materials as well, and I've done that, like I wanted it to be blatantly obvious that it was as an addition to this building, something that the zoo added at a later date. Yeah, I wanted that to be obvious, so that's the reason why it is different, you know, the wood and whatnot, and you know, the ceilings and the roofs are very similar. Gone with that design again on the roof where I do drop these little sections down now and we add all of the little details and whatnot. I think it just is, I just think it's the best way to do it. You know, I really need to kind of go back and add some details on these roof pieces as well. I kind of realise that when I'm doing all my builds now, but yeah, I think it looks really, really good from like an aerial view, and I actually think that the building doesn't look out of place. I actually think it looks, you know, quite cool. It looks quite grand, and that's kind of the look we were going with for this build. So as you can see, I've started adding some like advertising hoardings on, and this one, yes, come meet our colony of Egyptian fruit bats, and just telling you in which direction to go in. So yeah, why don't we jump in? This probably isn't going to be the longest episode, gang, because it's very different. I think this is going to be very different, like showing this off as in you know, comparison to some of the other animals that we can show off, basically. So as you can see, there's another little sign inside. I realise I do need to go and do the signs for the fennec fox, but I've kind of been going through a bit of a rethink where signs are concerned. Like, I actually want to redesign a lot of it. I'm not really happy with the ones that we've got. I want to go back and like really look at all the signage and redesign it. So yeah, I want to go and take a good look at the fennec foxes stuff and a lot of the other animals. So yeah, we've got this little part of the building here. There's a slight redesign in here. I've changed the colours up. I really was not keen on the colours, I'm going to be honest with you. So yeah, a slight redesign in here. I wanted it to kind of match this area a bit more. And obviously change the planters up, and yeah, I need to, one big thing I need to do is add the bench back, because there was a big bench that went along the back of the hab, so I do need to add the bench back. That's the only thing probably I need to do in here, but everything else is looking pretty good. So then this is the way to our fruit bats, you know, sort of exhibition, I guess you could call it. So we are met with this habitat here. This is an implied exhibit. Because I wanted this to feel like a bit of an experience, like I wanted to add a bit more than just the fruit bats, and so I had to get from basically the way that I've got around making the exhibit box appear smaller than it is I've dropped it down into the ground. I dug the ground out, and so I've dug it down into the ground. I had grand ideas of maybe like making this look like a cave and whatnot, but to be honest with you, when I was reading about the fruit bats and whatever, they're not really like, they do dwell in caves, but they're not big cave dwellers and whatnot, so it just didn't feel right. And to be honest, the heavily themed stuff, we're really limiting that in Tropical Wings, and the more I was doing, the more it just did not feel great. So I reined it in, and then I went with kind of this design. And to be honest with you, I really, really like it. I really, really like it. I know it's really kind of subtle, it's quite plain, but I think the issue with me is I'm such a minimalist. Like, that's the sort of design I like. And so that's kind of what I've gone with. As you can see, I'm like absolutely in love with this floor, the way that's all turned out, all these guardrails. Because if you walk to here, you can obviously quite a bit of a drop down, but yeah, we've gone with like slopes as well rather than stairs, because I didn't want to have to put in extra kind of disabled access and whatnot. But yeah, this is like an implied exhibit. So yeah, if anyone wants to throw out any suggestions for animals that we could make boards for that, then feel free. But yeah, it's pretty plain. Like, I just threw a bunch of items in here basically under some like blue lights and stuff. So yeah, I think it looks really, really cool, to be honest. And obviously the access door is on the outside right there, my friends. As you can see, look, staff in access only and all that. So we do have that on the other side. And then if we continue the experience, yeah, we come down here. We met with a bunch of planting and whatnot. Threw some windows in just to flood this room with some natural light. I've just realised, looking at the room, I haven't put any lights on the ceiling, which is a big error on my part. But yeah, I can go in and do that before we crack on with anything new. And then as you come down here, you're actually met with a scarab beetle habitat. Obviously, they kind of from a similar area to the fruit bats, so I kind of felt like they were a good like little addition. But again, just tried to make the exhibit box appear a bit smaller. If we really wanted, we could change that and make this like a different animal, but it's just the scarab beetles in there, so that it's just something to look at basically. But I think it's quite a cool little addition to add in here. We've got our little education balls and whatnot that we've thrown in as well. But yeah, I wanted to kind of add that and just kind of add something a bit extra to what you are doing. And then as you come down this way, this is where we enter the fruit bat colony, basically. And so the big thing with the exhibit box, as you've just seen, you can remove all the walls, the ceilings or whatever, and it's quite customizable. Basically, you can add all the items you want, and so that's kind of like the way I've gone with it. Obviously, a lot of their enrichment items you're going to see are very kind of set pieces. There's not much you can do about them. Some of them are permanent fixtures, some of them are not. Some of them you like add on, which I will show you basically when we go in. But this is my Egyptian fruit bat colonies habitat. I really, really like it. The more I look at it, the more I think maybe I should have carried on that stone design up and over the doors, to be honest with you. I haven't done it over here either. But I've kind of just done it either side. But yeah, maybe I should have carried it on over the doors. But you know what? We can always edit stuff at a later date. But I've actually put windows in on the roof and on the sides. Now, I as you all know, I do a fair bit of research, gang, when I'm looking at habitat design and all that sort of stuff. And one of the big things was the big questions I was asking was walk through bat habitat. I don't think I've ever been to a zoo that's got one. And then, yeah, Chester Zoo has a fruit bat hab that you can walk through. And I was like, that's amazing. And so obviously I was just taking a look at a lot of bat habs and the sort of things they were going with. And a lot of it was kind of like just old wood that the bats can kind of like grip onto and hang from, and then just ropes and a bit of planting here and there. And some go the extra mile where they do like the fake walls and level changes, and it was lots of different designs out there. And so I just kind of took a bunch of them, and this is what I came up with, basically. So I really like it. I love the fact that the guardrails are all like all over the place. They don't actually match. I actually really like that. Some people are going to look at that and it's probably going to give them a bit of a meltdown, but each side of the hab is different. So, you know, the guardrails needed to be different, basically. I've done something really interesting here. Is you're going to find that when you, obviously, if you get the DLC and you start messing around with the bats, you're going to find there's lots of like pieces that get added. Like you can see this one here, this bit of rope that comes along here and here. Now I've disguised the metal beam with wood because I felt like wood was a more natural material that kind of just looked a bit better, basically. So that's why I used wood. And then you're going to find there's like a little water tray. So I decided to disguise the water tray and turn it into a waterfall. Yes, there's going to be bats that come down here and drink. Like there's one there, and obviously he probably wouldn't come down there if there was a big old waterfall and whatever. But you know, like if we're talking about just from an aesthetical, you know, standpoint, I think it looks really, really cool. And I've done all these plants all kind of like growing out of the little cracks and crevices. As you can see, look at the two bats up there flying around. So I basically measured the roof height, basically the ceiling height where it needed to be, and then yeah, made the decision to remove the ceiling. When you put the bats in, you can actually, if you keep the ceiling on, there's actually these bits that come down and the bats actually will hang from the ceiling. I've just done implied versions of that instead because I wanted to get the ceiling a bit lower than it is, basically, because it is very high. It's really high, and these doors are massive as well. So like if I was to click on the door, that's the size of the doorway. It's just so big. So I decided to like disguise it and whatnot. So just so you know, there's lots of stuff that you can edit in the exhibit box, gang, once you add the animals. So these are all your enrichment items. So you've got enrichment level 1, 2, and 3. Works very similar to your normal exhibits, basically. But as you can see, this is like a food-based one. I think this one's like a perch-based one, and then you've got like a little extra, so like a bit of a mixture. So as you can see, I did you know, a number of different things. So this bat box, this one here, there's 2 bat boxes that you are actually just part of it, okay, that you can't remove. So you've got one here, and then you've got one here, and then the other things that you can't remove is you've got this grate here, and then there's another grate over here. So they're the only things that can't be removed in the hab. Once you put the animals in, they stay there. But as you can see, all the bits I kind of added are kind of there as well. Little nectar feeder at the end. And I think they look really cool, and I just decided to like disguise them by putting in all this like wooden work. I've added like extra ropes to it as well to make it look like the bats would, you know, hang from other places. So like I've got ropes here and I've got a rope here. The food skewers are kind of up there. I feel like it's just come out really, really nice, to be honest with you. You'll see with the cinematics, the bats flying around now. I don't think that they are so much random animations, but I think it is. I think it is like almost like a point-to-point animation is kind of how they work. So what I noticed was when I was first putting the animals in, and I just put 1 in or 2 in, they would just perch the whole time, wouldn't really fly around. And then the more I added, the more activity seemed to appear. But they won't just fly around. They do actually land and drink and eat when they need to. So they will move from point to point in the hab, but I just don't think the animations are as random as maybe some of us might have liked. But I still think it's a really positive, like when you watch the bats flying around, I still think this is a really positive step in the right direction that Frontier are making to potentially give us more, you know, maybe some other species of bat, maybe birds. You know, I really do think we are heading in that direction with this. I think this is really clever. What I will say, though, is, you know, if they are going to potentially look towards doing birds, is that I really hope when they do birds, they're potentially not in this exhibit box that's this big. Because trying to create aviaries out of this will be a real headache. Because aviaries are just not this big. I think we can get away with it with the bats because you can have a colony of up to like 50 odd bats if you really wanted. That makes sense in a big facility like this. They kind of need to be kept inside as well. So that makes sense. Whereas I think birds, you know, we would want, you know, if this is the only way they can do it, I think we would need some smaller exhibit box sizes, basically. I think we could do with 3 or 4 different sizes of this kind of box with the ability to remove the walls and the ceiling and whatever, so we can customize it how we want. But I think, you know, if we are heading towards birds, this size box just will not work, in my opinion. It was a lot of hassle to get this to, you know, fit in my zoo. Because I build for realism, I like to scale everything down to a more realistic size. It was a bit of hassle. I made it work. I've made it work. I really, really like it as well. Like, this is genuinely, decorative wise, I think this is one of my favourite habs so far. I really do feel like I've nailed the brief big time in making it feel like this like little tropical escape like in the zoo. As you can see, I've done all of our education boards as well. I've got 3, all with the same kind of picture and whatever, but the bit of information at the bottom's different. So yeah, and that's the sort of direction I think I'm going to head with the education boards. I really, really prefer them. But yeah, I hope if we are heading towards birds that, Frontier really have a think about the exhibit box sizes and how they work. But for the bats, I do think it's a pretty cool thing. It really, really is. Like I was saying, I've put windows in as well because the fruit bats don't really need constant nocturnal, conditions. So that was really cool. So that kind of opened up the possibilities to like change things up a bit. I've done these like really kind of deep windows on the sides. Obviously, that's just to disguise how deep the walls are because I have to try and hide all of the stone designs and whatever. But yeah, I think it worked out really, really nicely. So we head up here, you can see like you got all the food up this end as well, and then you can spin it around and take a look at it this way. So these PVC kind of like doorways, you can actually remove them if you want, which is really, really cool. You can either keep them, you can change the colour of them, so I changed them to a bit of a darker colour, but you can remove them as well, so that's really cool. So if you just wanted to put doorways on, you can, like that, like then you don't have the animation of when people walk through them, because when people walk through, they actually flap backwards and forwards. I would actually love that as a piece for the game, because that PVC piece, imagine it over on the bug house. It would be unbelievable. It'd be so good to have that actual doorway, So I'd love that as a piece on the game, like an animated piece even as well. So yeah, it is pretty cool, but. Yeah, I really like it. Really, really like it, gang. I'm absolutely loving the bats. Obviously, like I've already said, I'm going to be bringing to you another animal from the pack as well this week, so do keep your eyes peeled for that. And then this is just the exit, basically, from the Bat Colony experience, and it's going to bring you out here, basically, and this is kind of like a bit of a lower area, but this is just to kind of show you how far down I really had to dig into the ground to make the building work. So look, you can actually really appreciate it from here. That's the top of the building, right? That's how far down I've had to come. So you can really appreciate how big that exhibit box is. So yeah, some people, you might find it's just going to look a bit weird in your zoos, but there are ways around it, gang. There really, really are. And, I wish you all luck when you do buy it. Let me know what you're doing with your bat habitats. But the customization in there is really good. Like, I love the fact that you can empty it all out and you can, like, really go to town, how you want. One criticism, probably I have 2 criticisms of it. The first one is the size. I think it's too big. Obviously, I think it needs scaling down, or at least give us 3 different sizes of it. I think that would be great. My other one is that the path only goes through the middle. What I do want to experiment with is if you even need to have the path. Because you can put glass on the front and back. Is there a thing where we could do that and then you could put stuff in there and just view it from the front? That would be really interesting to find out if that is the case. But yeah, for now, obviously only the bats use it, so having that walkthrough kind of deal is quite cool. But yeah, this will up here, it will have like a semicircle staircase. And guests are going to be able to kind of walk out. I'm going to put some plants, some trees and stuff down here. But the guests will be able to kind of walk out, because we're going to have our lions over here, and we're going to have our rhinos and other animals over this side. I can't remember which animal I'm combining with the rhino, but yeah, that's essentially what's going to happen over there. And this is a new piece, by the way, from the new DLC. This is like a new stone piece, which I absolutely love. You can recolour it, but I kind of really like the colour that it was. And then obviously I've just kind of used this to kind of make the wall, and then the building kind of sits inside it. And I think that looks really, really cool. But yeah, essentially like the road actually runs over the building or the pathway. So it's quite unique, that bit. It really is unique. But I wanted to create some more like unique stuff in the zoo and some like unique level changes as well. And I think that's definitely definitely kind of given us that and kind of headed in the right direction. But yeah, there's not really too much else to say, gang, on today's episode. I'm not going to do what I usually do and bring you, what's coming next. We are going to be having another DLC animal in Tropical Wings this week at some point. And obviously, I spoke in last episode about what's coming next. So yeah, feel free to go and check that out. I'll link it above if you want to go and watch it. But yeah, after these animals from the Twilight Pack, I am going to be heading back into Asia and starting a very, very big project. So yeah, there's going to be lots to come. We are very much back at it in Tropical Wings, adding lots of new species and getting this zoo where it needs to be. And so there you go, gang. We are done and dusted for another episode of Tropical Wings Zoo. I just want to say another massive thank you to the guys at Frontier for sending me the Twilight Pack DLC. It's an amazing, amazing pack in my opinion. Some of the pieces are really cool. I think the animal selection's great. I know it was a bit 50-50 amongst the community, but trust me, when you get your hands on it and you get to take a look, you are really, really going to love this brand new DLC for Planet Zoo. I really enjoyed building out the fruit bats, and I'm sure a lot of the community are going to have a lot of fun building them as well. I hope you enjoy mine. Be sure to let me know in the comment section below what you are making of the habitat, and if you are picking up the DLC, make sure to let me know what you're making of that as well. But my friends, we are done and dusted. I will be back, as I've said, this week with plenty more Planet Zoo content. Not just another animal, but we are going to have some Planet Zoo streams where we will talk all things Twilight Pack. I really, really look forward to that. But until then, if you're new around here, please consider subscribing to the channel, dropping a like on this video if you've enjoyed it, and as I always say, check out the description box to join my Discord and follow me on the Twitterverse. Anyway, until then, stay safe, stay humble, see us all later.